The iPhone 14 Pro is the best phone under $1,000. It's powerful, has amazing cameras, sports a beautiful display, and the notch is dead. It's hard to think of anything truly wrong with this device, and it's perfect for people tired of giant handsets. Apple hasn't changed up the camera array's design, but virtually everything about the iPhone 14 Pro's three cameras is new. The three lenses are 48 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and 12 megapixel telephoto lens. These are new lenses and larger sensors, and the most interesting camera is undoubtedly the 48 megapixel sensor. This is Apple's first pixel binding sensor, and that means it captures 12 megapixel images with 4 pixels combined into one effective larger pixel, which results in better low light performance and color fidelity. I'm glad Apple has implemented this, though it's certainly not groundbreaking. Samsung's been doing pixel binding for a while now, and the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra features a 108 megapixel camera with the 9 pixel binding potential. The 48 megapixel sensors adds the ability to shoot full resolution raw images, although you have to enable this option in the camera settings. You won't see RAW as an option in the camera app by default. RAW images are uncompressed photos that gives you greater latitude for editing in Adobe Photoshop and mobile apps like Adobe Lightroom. We downloaded some photos to a PC and edited them in Lightroom and loved having the extra degree of control, although it will be overkill for most users. The ultra-wide camera still has a 120-degree field of view but is now backed by a bigger sensor for better low-light performance. The photos we took bear this out. We like wide-angle imagery well enough, but what really floats our boat is macro photography. When Apple added macro to the iPhone 13 Pro at first without the ability for users to control when it was activated, we were not impressed. The macro mode on the iPhone 14 Pro, which uses the ultra-wide lens, is a different story. It's clearly making use of the sharper lens and massively improved light performance of the new sensor, meaning close-up images can look breathtaking. We wish Apple had gone further than the 3x optical zoom with the 12 megapixel telephoto lens. However, it's a good camera, but you can get 10x optical zoom with the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. Not to mention that phone's insanely highly interpolated 100x space zoom, and you still can't take good-looking moonshots with the iPhone. Apple does have one more zoom option, although it's actually part of the primary sensor rather than a separate lens. With a central 12 megapixel section of the new 48 megapixel snapper used for 2x zoom shots, this means you get 12 megapixel pixel bind stills and really good looking 2x zoom photos from the same lens, and it's also a great tool for portrait mode shots too. On the video front, Apple has upgraded cinematic mode to support 4K 30 FPS. Footage looks great, and every time you use this mode, you will feel like a real cinematographer. There's also a new video mode, Action, which you enable by selecting the tiny running man icon in the upper right section of the camera app. Because the digital stabilization technology employed in the mode works by cropping away excessive movement until you have a smooth subject in the center of your video, Action mode shooting tops out at 2.8K rather than 4K and works well, as long as you understand that you are losing visual information every time you shoot. Apple has not added 8K video, and honestly, we don't miss it at all. Across the board, this is a good imaging system, and that's surely due in part to Apple's new photonic engine, which takes Apple's diffusion image technology and moves it to the front to the pipeline, applying it to uncompressed images, which results in better light and color performance. Apple could have done more here in the zoom and megapixel department, but the iPhone 14 Pro still represents the start of something special in the field of Apple iPhone photographic technology and remains one of the best camera phones on the market based on our time with it. I am confident in saying that based on my uses and time with the device, the iPhone 14 Pro is the best phone Apple's made. With its incredible cameras, beautiful display, and powerful performance, the iPhone 14 Pro outruns any of the competition. It's faster, smoother, and its cameras win out against everything else, even the Pixel 6 Pro. The biggest downside to the iPhone 14 Pro is the lack of a physical SIM tray in the US models, which might irritate some people. I was also less than impressed with the device in our battery life test. For $999 you can't go wrong with the iPhone 14 Pro. It's less worthwhile of an upgrade over the iPhone 13 Pro, but anything older pales in comparison. Even the iPhone 12 Pro trails the iPhone 14 Pro given the older phone's lackluster battery life. I think that the iPhone 14 Pro is truly the best phone that Apple has ever released, crushing everything else before it. It easily earns my utmost recommendation.